Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a pretty big stack of notes, articles, and industry standards on the table today, and I'm going to be honest with you, at first glance, this topic looks dry.
Oh, totally.
It looks like this giant maze of acronyms that usually puts people to sleep. But, and this is a massive Monty app, but if you are trying to land a job in SOC or cloud computing or, fintech, what we're about to discuss is it's effectively your golden ticket.
It really is. It's one of those topics that separates I read a blog post once, candidates from the I am actually ready to work here professionals.
Exactly. We are talking about SOC 2. And look, I know, it sounds like the name of a droid in a sci-fi movie.
Right.
But here is the scenario I want you to imagine. You are in a job interview. Maybe you are a fresh grad, or maybe you are pivoting into tech from another industry. And the hiring manager leans back, looks at your resume, and asks, "So what do you understand about our compliance obligations regarding customer data?"
That is usually the exact moment the room goes quiet or the candidate starts sweating.
Right. Because if you stammer or just say, you use strong passwords, Wick, you are probably done. But if you can answer that question fluently, you aren't just a candidate anymore, you are an asset. So our mission today is to decode SOC2 so you can walk into that room and explain it with total confidence.
That's the goal. We really need to move past the idea that this is just like boring paperwork. In the modern cloud economy, SOC2 is basically the currency of trust. It's how business actually gets done.
Let's start at the very beginning then. So SOC stands for Service Organization Control. But that tells me absolutely nothing about what it actually is. So can you break this down? And I'm going to ask you to simple words me here.
Okay, simple words me. I like that.
Yeah, break it down like I'm 5, or at least like I'm not a corporate lawyer.
Let's strip away all the jargon then. SOC2 is a compliance framework, and it was actually developed by the AICPA, which is the American Institute of CPAs.
Wait, CPAs? Like accountants?
Yep, accountants.
Why are accountants writing security standards for software companies? That makes no sense.
That is the very first thing that confuses people. But think about it historically, right? Auditors looked at financial ledgers to make sure a company wasn't cooking the books.
Okay, sure.
But as businesses moved to the cloud, cooking the books became less about, math and more about data integrity and security. So the accounting world just adapted. They created a standard to audit systems exactly like they used to audit finances.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So instead of checking if the dollars match up, they're checking if the data is safe.
Precisely. So here's the simple definition. SOC2 is an independent evaluation that proves a company handles customer data securely. Think of it like a health inspector grade for a restaurant, but for a software company.
So it's a seal of approval.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine you were a SaaS company. Software as a service. You built this great app, and now you want to sell it to a massive bank or maybe a hospital system. They're going to look at you and say, why should we trust you with our sensitive data?
Right, because they don't know you.
Exactly. You can tell them, oh, we're super secure, but they don't know that. SOC2 is you handing them a report from a third-party auditor that says, yes, we checked, and they actually do what they say they do.
Got it. So if I'm a cloud provider or an IT service company, this isn't really optional, is it? It sounds like if I don't have this, I can't close the deal.
Effectively, no, it's not optional. I mean, it is voluntary in the sense that no government policeman is going to arrest you for not having it.
Right, right.
But commercially, it is completely mandatory. If you want to move up market and sell to enterprise customers, they will demand to see your SOC2 report. It is the make or break factor in B2B sales.
Okay, so it's proof that we aren't just winging it with the data. Now, digging into the notes here, SOC2 isn't just one big blob of security. It is built on these things called trust service criteria, the pillars.
Right. There are 5 trust service criteria, or TSCs. When an auditor comes in, these are basically the rulers they use to measure you.
And I feel like if a candidate can just rattle these off in an interview and actually explain them, they look like a genius. Let's unpack them. The first one is security.
Security is the big one. It is the only mandatory pillar. You literally cannot have a SOC2 report without the security criteria.
Really? The others are optional.
Yep, the others are optional depending on your specific business, but security is non-negotiable for everyone.
So what does security actually mean in this context? Because it feels pretty broad.
It is broad, but specifically the focus here is protection against unauthorized access. We are talking about the absolute fundamentals. Is the system protected from attackers? Are you using firewalls? Is multi-factor authentication, or MFA, enabled everywhere?
Okay, let's ground this. If I am working at a coffee shop and I leave my laptop open, walk away to get a latte, and it doesn't have a password lock, am I failing the security criteria?
You are failing it hard.
Aha.
Security is about preventing unauthorized entry, whether that's a hacker in a basement in another country or just someone looking over your shoulder at a cafe. It covers physical security, network security, and application security.
Got it. Next pillar, availability. This one seems self-explanatory, but I'm guessing there's a catch.
It is exactly what it sounds like. Is the system available when the customer needs it? But the nuance is in the promise you made.
You mean the SLA, the service level agreement?
Right. If you promise your customers 99.9% uptime, the auditor is going to check if you actually met that promise. They will look at your uptime monitoring logs. They will ask, do you have a disaster recovery plan if the servers go down? It isn't just about being up. It's about having a plan for when you inevitably go down.
That is a key distinction. It's not about being perfect. It's about proving you can handle imperfection. Okay. Number 3, processing integrity. This sounds a bit more technical.
This one is huge for fintech especially. It is about accuracy. Is the data being processed correctly, effectively, and at the right time?
Give me a scenario for that.
Think about a payroll system. If a company sends a file to pay 1,000 employees, processing integrity ensures that the system doesn't accidentally pay the same person twice or drop a zero and pay someone $500 instead of $5,000.
Right, that would be a disaster.
Exactly. It's about ensuring the data doesn't get corrupted or manipulated as it moves through the pipes. Completeness and accuracy.
So no wrong math, no lost transactions. Now, the last two often get confused, and I really want to clarify this because I've seen people mix them up. Confidentiality and privacy. To the average person, those words mean the exact same thing. How do they differ in SOC 2?
This is a classic interview trap. Here's the big distinction. Confidentiality protects data that belongs to the business. Privacy protects data that belongs to the person.
Okay, let's go deeper on that. Confidentiality is for business secrets.
Right. For trade secrets, intellectual property, internal price lists, or maybe the actual source code of your software. If that gets out, the business is harmed.
Ah.
The controls here are things like non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, and encryption. The goal is to prevent leaks of proprietary information.
Okay, so confidentiality covers the company stuff. Then privacy is...
Privacy focuses on PII, personal identifiable information. We are talking about customer emails, home addresses, health data, social security numbers.
So the checks here must be totally different.
Very different. For privacy, an auditor looks for consent. Did the customer actually agree to give you this data? Do you have a deletion policy if they want it removed? Do you have a privacy notice on your website? It is about preventing the misuse of personal identity.
That is a crystal clear distinction. Confidentiality is for the secret sauce. Privacy is for the customer list.
I want to pause here. Can you real-world example, Samjo, for these pillars working together? Like, paint a picture of a healthcare app so we can see how they all overlap.
Real-world example, Samcho? Sure. Let's look at a telemedicine app. Security means hackers can't break in and steal the database of patient records.
Availability means when the doctor logs in for an urgent appointment, the screen doesn't just say 404 error because the servers are down. Processing integrity means if the doctor prescribes 50 milligrams of a medication, the pharmacy receives an order for 50 milligrams, not 500 milligrams.
That is literal life or death accuracy right there.
Exactly. Then, confidentiality means the hospital's contract with the insurance company regarding pricing stays secret from their competitors. And finally, privacy means the patient's diagnosis isn't sold to an ad agency so they can target them with drug ads without permission.
I love that breakdown. If you are listening to this, you should honestly rewind that last minute and memorize that example, because if you can explain it like that in an interview, you are golden.
Absolutely. It shows you understand the business impact, not just the textbook definition.
Moving on to another area that trips people up, and I know hiring managers love to test this because it shows if you understand how the audit actually works in practice. The difference between a Type 1 and a Type 2 report.
Ah, yes. The classic snapshot versus movie distinction.
Snapshot versus movie. Is that accurate?
It is the perfect analogy. A SOC2 Type 1 report is a snapshot.
Yep.
It checks the design of your controls at a specific point in time. The auditor comes in and asks, on January 1st, did you have a lock on the door?
And if I show them the lock, I pass.
You pass.
Yep.
Yes, the lock is installed. That is Type 1. It is great for startups that need to prove they have security, but haven't been around long enough to prove they use it consistently.
Right.
A SOC2 Type 2 report is the movie. It checks the operating effectiveness over a period of time, usually 6 to 12 months. The auditor asks, Was that door actually locked every single night for the last year?
That sounds significantly harder to pass.
It is exponentially harder
Yeah.
because people make mistakes. Maybe one night the security guard forgot. Maybe 1 week the automatic backup failed. Type 2 catches all those operational mistakes.
So from a customer perspective, if I'm the big bank buying the software, I definitely want to see the Type 2.
100%. Type 1 says we set it up correctly. Type 2 says we actually stick to the rules every single day. It proves operational maturity. If you are in an interview and they ask, why should we invest in a Type 2 audit? The answer is because it builds significantly more trust with enterprise customers.
There it is. Okay, let's pivot. We've got the framework, we've got the report types. Now let's talk about the actual beer, the core controls. If I am a fresher, these are the concepts I need to drop to show I actually know what the job entails.
This is the interview gold section. These are the specific practices you really need to understand.
Let's start with the gatekeeper. Access control.
This is usually the biggest section of the entire audit. The core concept here is RBAC, role-based access control.
Which means?
It means you don't give everyone the master key. Access is tied to your specific job function. Does a marketing intern need access to the production database where the live customer credit cards are stored?
Definitely not.
Then the system shouldn't allow it. This ties into the principle of least privilege. You give a user the bare minimum access they need to do their job, and not a single byte more.
And what about when people leave? I feel like that is a huge vulnerability.
Massive. This is called user provisioning and deprovisioning. Provisioning is giving access when they start, but deprovisioning is critical. When an employee resigns or gets fired, their access must be revoked immediately.
Immediately, like by the end of the week.
No, immediately, like usually within 24 hours,
Yeah.
often sooner. Imagine a disgruntled employee who just got fired. If they still have their login for another day, they could delete databases, steal client lists, or just wreak havoc.
And the auditor actually checks this.
They love checking this. They will ask for a list of everyone fired in the last year, and then they'll cross-reference it with the system logs to see exactly when their email and database access was cut. If there was a gap, you fail.
Wow. Speaking of checking lists, let's talk about logging and monitoring.
The golden rule in security is, if you didn't log it, it didn't happen. Companies must maintain logs of everything. Login attempts, file access, admin activity. You will want to be familiar with the term SIEM, Security Information and Event Management.
That is SIEM.
Right. These are tools that collect all those logs into one central place. But here's the catch. It isn't enough to just collect the logs. You have to actually look at them.
So the auditor asks, are the alarms turned on?
Exactly. If someone tries to log in as admin 50 times in 1 minute from a suspicious IP address, does a red light flash somewhere? Does someone get an alert on their phone? If you have logs but nobody reads them, you aren't secure.
Which leads us perfectly to incident response. Because if the red light flashes, you need to know what to do.
Correct. You can't just panic. You need a structured plan. An incident is any security breach or suspicious activity. You need a formal incident response policy.
Is there a standard framework for this?
There's a simple loop you should basically memorize.
Yeah.
Detect, investigate, contain, fix, report.
Detect, investigate, contain, fix, report.
Detect, investigate, contain, fix, report. And I'd add one more step at the very end. Root cause analysis. Once the fire is out, you have to figure out exactly how it started so it never happens again.
Okay, what about when things just break? Not a hacker, but just a server melts? Backup and disaster recovery.
This protects against data loss. Backups should be daily or weekly. They must be encrypted. And this is the part everyone forgets. They must be tested.
Because a backup you can't restore from is just a heavy paperweight.
Exactly. And you need to know two acronyms here. RTO and RPO.
Go for it.
RTO is recovery time objective. It answers, how fast can we get the system back up? Is it 1 hour, 1 day?
Okay.
RPO is recovery point objective. It answers, how much data are we allowed to lose? If the system crashes at noon and our last backup was at midnight, we lost 12 hours of data. Is that acceptable for the business?
So RTO is about time, RPO is about data quantity.
Perfect.
Let's touch on the lock itself, encryption. Simple concept, 2 main states. Data at rest. This is encrypting the data sitting on your hard drives. If someone physically steals the server, they can't read the data without the key.
Right.
And data in transit. This is using HTTPS or TLS when sending data across the internet. If someone intercepts the wire, they just see scrambled noise.
One last control area, and this one feels a bit less techy, HR and vendor management.
It is critical because humans are often the weakest link. HR security asks, are you doing background checks? Are new hires signing NDAs? Are you actually training them on phishing emails?
Right, the human firewall.
And vendor management. If you use a third-party tool, say a payroll provider, and they get hacked, that is your problem too. You need to assess your vendor security posture.
It really is comprehensive. It covers the people, the vendors, the code, and the hardware. Now, I want to clarify something for our listener. Let's call him Rahul. Rahul is a fresher applying for a junior compliance analyst role. He sees SOC analyst and SO2 analyst on job boards. They look identical to a beginner. This is a classic gotcha. SOC, or SOC, usually refers to as Security Operations Center. That is a room full of screens with guys watching for hackers in real time. That is a cyber defense role.
Okay.
SOC2 is the compliance framework we have been discussing today. It is about policy, audit, and process. They are completely different career paths.
Huge distinction. Don't apply for a SOC2 job talking about hunting threat actors and the firewall logs. You will look totally confused.
Yep.
So if Rahul gets the job as a junior compliance officer dealing with SOC2, what is his day-to-day actually like? Is he rewriting code?
No, he isn't touching the code at all. A fresher's role usually revolves around evidence collection.
How does that work?
The auditor will say, show me proof that MFA was enabled for these 10 users. Rahul has to go track down the IT manager, get the screenshots, and upload them to the auditor's portal. Or they say, show me the backup logs for last Tuesday. He is basically a detective. He chases down the proof that the company is keeping its promises.
It sounds like a lot of herding cats, just getting engineers to do their paperwork.
That is 90% of the job. But it is a genuinely great way to learn how a company actually functions from the inside out.
And the audit process itself, it isn't just a one-day exam, right?
It is an entire life cycle.
Yeah.
First, you define the scope. What specific systems are we testing? Then you implement controls. You fix the gaps, install the firewalls.
Right.
Then collect evidence. That is Rahul's job. Then the auditor reviews everything. And finally, the report is generated.
Scope, implement, collect, review, report. We have covered a massive amount of ground today. We defined it, looked at the 5 pillars, the types, the core controls, and the actual job description. If we had to boil this entire conversation down to a cheat sheet formula, something you can just visualize, how would you summarize SOC2?
I would give them the simple equation. SOC2 equals security plus process plus documentation plus continuous monitoring.
Security, process, documentation, monitoring.
It captures everything perfectly. It's not just about being secure, it's about the process of maintaining it, the documentation that proves you did it, and the monitoring that ensures it happens every single day. It is a structured system to prove trust.
I love that. Listen, if you are prepping for an interview, don't just memorize the acronym. Use the structure we gave you today. Start with the trust definition, explain the pillars using that telemedicine app example, draw the knowledge about type 2 reports, and explain the controls like access and logging.
If you do that, you won't just sound like you memorized a textbook. You will sound like you understand the core business value of security. And that is what gets you hired.
That is a great final thought. It's not about checking boxes, it's about enabling the business to actually sell. And before we go, I want you to think about this. As AI gets better at reviewing logs and taking screenshots, how will that change continuous monitoring? In a few years, your auditor might just be an AI agent constantly checking your systems in real time.
That is a wild thought, but it's probably coming.
Something to explore on your own. That is a wrap for this deep dive into SOC2. Go out there, ace that interview, and we will catch you on the next one.